Hey everybody, I'm gonna do something a little different this time. No, I don't have enough stuff to show you as far as pickups go because I haven't had anything that I've picked up. So I'm gonna do an NES collection video. I don't have a huge collection, so I can do this probably in pretty short order. As usual, I'll kind of go over the games, give you my impressions of them. My thoughts of what the game is like. First is Mule. I don't know anything about this game. I think it's a port of a PC game to the NES, and this is just something that I ended up with. I don't really know how it came into my possession, but I do have it, and it's part of my modest collection of NES games. Next up is a pretty cool game. It's Spy Hunter, a decent port of the arcade game for home systems. Obviously, there's better out now, but this was pretty good for the time. And I have a poster with this artwork on it that I think came with this game. Looks like a movie poster, kind of cool. Excuse me. Next up is a similar game, Road Blasters. This was done by Atari, and what most people don't know is that there is a line of toys that ties in to this game that was made by Matchbox in the 80s. It was a series of Matchbox cars that had crazy paint jobs, and they had they included pieces of armor and gunnery that would attach to the die-cast car itself, little plastic weapons. And the label on the package of the toys had the same font as the title screen of the video game, which is used here. And what else? The music from the title screen of this game in the arcade and on the NES version is the music that was in the commercials for the toys. I've tried finding the commercial for the toys on YouTube, but it doesn't seem to exist. But trust me, these toys did exist, and I had several of them. And they even had little file cards like G.I. Joes, even though they were just, basically cars, and each one had a name. I think there were 8 of them. And then there's Dino Wars, The Destruction of Spondylus. This is a pretty crappy game. It's kind of like a tricky platforming game with one screen. You use a tiny, small character that you can jump around a one-screen room, kind of old-fashioned arcade-type platform jumping, to avoid pitfalls and traps and spikes and stuff. And then you had to get to the other side of the screen, and once you would get through a series of those, you would jump inside of your giant robot dinosaur's head, and then you would use the robot dinosaur on a side-scrolling level and fight a boss and then start over. And it was really disappointing because it had cool there was a cool poster that came in an issue of Nintendo Power that made this game look like it was going to be really awesome, and it was not awesome at all. And what also is not awesome is this blockbuster shit on the game here, but I don't care. I don't know how I even got that game. I don't remember buying it. So here's Pac-Man. This is a decent version of Pac-Man as far as home console versions go. This is very close to the arcade, but not identical, obviously, because it's not the arcade. It's not emulated or anything. It's a conversion. It's a port. This and Gauntlet and one other game, I can't remember which one, were Atari's Trojan horse to getting Nintendo's encryption so that they could make their own games for the NES. This is the licensed version. Once they got caught by Nintendo, the black packaged ones that were unlicensed came out. And that was about the time Tetris was released, because Tengen got a hold of Tetris at the same time as Nintendo. long story. Burger Time, great port of the arcade game. I got this a really long time ago. I don't remember how much I paid for it, but it wasn't much. I didn't pay much for any of these, if I paid for them at all. Most of them were $1 to $5. I'll make a note when necessary. Here's Millipede. Decent port of the arcade game. Not spectacular or anything, but it's alright. It did its job at the time, before emulators and stuff. Now, I've mentioned the worthless piece of shit that stole a bunch of stuff from us in the past on different collection videos. He did give me several video games at one point, and I'll point them out as I come across them. Here's one of them, and yeah, look at that. That's a really terrible game in terrible condition. I don't care about that one. Here's another one that he gave me that someone evidently paid $5 for. This is Al Unser Jr. Turbo Racing. I have no use for this, but it's in my collection. Here's another one that he gave me. TNC Surf Designs, Wood, Water, and Rage. This is surfing and skateboarding, and it was based on a line of clothing and products that were used for surfboards and skateboards. Like, you know, trucks and wheels and wax and stuff like that. It was popular in the late 80s and early 90s for a little bit, and then I think they kind of fizzled out. The game, I actually had that game at one point when I was a kid, somehow, through some other means, borrowing it from somebody that ended up, it didn't actually belong to that person, and there was a lot of trouble involved. Anyway, moving right along to GameStop's favorite game in the world, Battletoads. I actually had to ask a GameStop employee about what the deal was about Battletoads, because I had recommended videos on YouTube about prank calls involving GameStop and Battletoads, and there's like thousands of them, so I had to ask because I didn't know, and they told me. Top Secret Episode, starring Golgo 13. This is a pretty cool game. It has terrible graphics and kind of lousy gameplay a little bit, but it was a lot of fun, and you use Duke Togo here, and you punch and kick your way through some bad guys, and then there's other areas where you use the sniper rifle, and as the story progresses, you have sex with a girl, and all of your lost energy goes up. It's kind of funny. It was like pre-Grand Theft Auto video game porn. It made my dad laugh, and all my friends, of course. Here's a RoboCop for the NES. This is sort of loosely based on the arcade version that Data East made, and it's not that good. The arcade version is way better, and this game is kind of hurting. It's on a bunch of different systems, though. You can get this on Commodore 64. This game was also on the Color Computer 2. My friend had that one that he got at Radio Shack. And okay, so here's a port of Ikari Warriors. It's decent for the NES, you know. And here's its follow-up, Ikari Warriors 2, The Victory Road. I think it was just called Victory Road in the arcade. I used to play this in Circle K every once in a while, and it was kind of a cool game because it had aliens and monsters and stuff in it. Here's POW, Prisoners of War. Unfortunately, they removed the two-player co-op aspect from this for the NES version, but it's a pretty cool side-scrolling beat-em-up. You can pick up a weapon and fire it at your enemies, and if you want to save bullets, you can hit them with the butt of your gun. The NES version has better sound than the arcade, which is odd. Here's Astyanax, or Astyanax, depending on who you hear pronounce it. There was an arcade game that I didn't know of. I found it on a video of it on YouTube. This is different from the arcade, but it is the same thing pretty much. And I think the NES version is a little bit better than the arcade. It plays similar to Legendary Axe for the TurboGrafx 16, in that when you the longer you don't swing your weapon, the stronger your attacks will be. So if you use a rapid fire controller, you will have fast but weak attacks, and you have to kind of balance that out. That's a gameplay mechanic. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. This is Journey to Silius. From what I understand, this was originally going to be a Terminator game. It has really good music. It's very difficult. There's a little bit of sticker residue here, but it's not a big deal. Very hard game. I've never got past the third level of this. It's a very hard game. Next is Natsume's Shadow of the Ninja. This is two-player co-op. A friend of mine spent all day, my friend Lewis and myself, we played this game all day together. Died countless times, had to continue and start over from the beginning over and over again. We finally beat this game. It was very hard. And then, oddly enough, several years later, after this game was released on the NES, there was a sequel made for it on the Game Boy Advance or the Game Boy Color. I think it's the Game Boy Color. Pretty cool. River City Ransom. This game is classic. It's made by Technos, which is the guys who are behind Double Dragon, and this has kind of squatty, super deformed characters and a lot of RPG type stats that you can use, and you can get different attributes for your characters. This is two-player co-op with a lot of RPG stats. It's complicated for the type of game that it is, but it's a lot of fun, has good music, has funny stuff in it. There's also a version for this that's on the PC Engine in Japan. Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt. I don't think I need to explain that any further. And here's Heavy Barrel. This was kind of like Ikari Warriors in a lot of ways. This was made by Data East, and you picked up several pieces of the weapon Heavy Barrel, and once you assembled that weapon, you could destroy everything in your path for a very short period of time. And the NES port is okay. As far as arcade ports go, it's not identical. Here's Duck Hunt Solo. Some people, I guess, like 5-screw versions. I don't know. I don't care one way or the other about that. This is The Adventures of Bayou Billy. This video game is kind of stupid, but I actually I used to rent this all the time when I was a kid, and I got all the way up to the last bosses, and this game is extremely hard, and the levels are really, really long. This game got a major push because I think they were trying to make this into a I don't know where they were going with this. There was a comic book based on it, and it was published by Archie. And I think they were going to try and make cartoons and action figures and stuff based on that game, and they threw all their eggs into that basket a little too early, and that game went nowhere fast. And there was rumors that there was going to be a new one in the 32-bit days. But that never came to be. This is Roller Games. It's made by the American leg of Konami. It's basically a side-scrolling beat-em-up on roller skates, and it is based on a TV show of the same name. The TV show didn't last very long. It was basically roller derby. It was just a scripted roller derby show with wrestling type characters and team owners, and it was crappy, and it doesn't have the theme song from the TV show or some of the major characters. Moving along is Gradius. Pretty difficult game. I'm sure we're all familiar with Gradius. And then there's Life Force, which is in the same family. I don't think it's a direct sequel, but it is related. This one has vertical levels in addition to side-scrolling levels. Sorry. Trying to move along quicker here. Next is the Wrath of the Black Manta. Again, this is another one that I rented all the time because I was trying to beat it, and I did eventually beat this several times, actually. It's not a particularly good game, but it's not terrible either. If you skip the cinematics, it's a little bit more enjoyable because they're really long, and they don't really add any value to the gameplay or the story itself, which is really lame. I think it ties into Kid Nicky or Ninja Taro or something like that. I don't remember. Super Mario Brothers. There you go, 5. You know, because you can't go wrong with that. Next up is a bona fide classic here, Contra. I got this at a weird thrift store in Tucson a long time ago, and it looked like it had never been touched, other than the fact that it didn't have its box or anything. But the game was in incredibly good condition, and I had not seen a copy of it in a really, really long time, so I was very happy to find that at that pawn shop because it was only $5, and I also got another game that I'll show you soon coming up for the same price. That was also in amazing condition. Here's Super C, or Super Contra. It was called Super Contra in the arcade. This is the sequel to Contra. What more can I say? Unfortunately, there's never been, you know, like a arcade classic collection that included those from Konami, unfortunately, like I said. And here is one that a lot of people like to look out for, but mine, I gotta tell you, this is a bad game, and mine's in bad shape. This is Contra Force, and as you can see, you know, the label is ruined. I didn't pay very much for this, but I did want it for my collection because I wanted to play it and try it out. I never actually had played it before, and it is pretty horrible. There's the original Castlevania. Everybody knows Castlevania. And Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, which was more in line with, had some RPG type elements, but it wasn't an RPG. It was more of an adventure type game, and everything was very vague, kind of hard to figure out because the translation was done by people who didn't speak either English or Japanese or either language at all. And there's Castlevania 3. This is one of my favorites in the series. Simon's Quest was a really cool Castlevania game because it was different, and Symphony of the Night owes a lot of its existence to Simon's Quest. Here's Kabuki Quantum Fighter. This is a pretty unique game. It's a side-scrolling platformer. You use your hair as a weapon. It's kind of futuristic. You're a Kabuki character. You can climb around on things hanging from them. Pretty hard game. I never did beat this. This game is extremely difficult. Okay, next up is Renegade. This is based on the arcade game. Arcade game was extremely hard. This was a little bit easier to get past the first boss, really. Get past the first screen. The arcade game was always extremely difficult, and I couldn't do anything other than get my ass kicked. And when you do, it says, "Get lost, punk!" really loud. In the arcade, it's just text in the NES version. Here's a classic right here, Pro Wrestling. I'd like to see this done up again. for a modern console, just not in a cartoony kind of way that, Punch-Out was done. Like, I don't want to see people bleeding bananas or something like that, and I don't want to see Mario and Donkey Kong in it or anything. I want it to be like a straightforward wrestling game that uses these same characters, and it takes itself a little seriously, like this one did, with the characters. They were over the top, and I don't know who Hughes is, but there's 5 screws. 5 screws Hughes. Here is Karnov. This game is funny. Use a big fat guy that breathes fire. Unfortunately, this is not on the Data East Arcade Classic Collection for Wii. It should have been, but it's here. Here we are with it, and on the NES. So we always got that one. Next up is one of my more hard to find games, I think. This is G.I. Joe. This is a very difficult game, and I think it might be kind of expensive. Don't know for sure. I don't really keep up on that type of thing. And here's the sequel, G.I. Joe, The Atlantis Factor. And this was one of the later games made for the NES by Capcom. I believe it was toward the end of the run. Next up is the NES version of Rygar, which is completely different from the arcade game. This one is one of those games that you have to complete in one sitting. You don't get to save or anything. Here's Dragon Spirit. This is a top-down shooter. Namco made this in the arcades. You use a dragon, and when you power up, you can grow more heads. You can get up to 3 heads that breathe fire, and then, you like save the princess or some shit. I don't know. It's a shooter. This is Breakthrough. I don't know if I've played this. I know I picked it up for like $1, and I don't know what this is. Probably some rental. Yeah, a rental label. I think it cost me $1. Kung Fu, also known as Kung Fu Master in the arcades. It didn't cost me $3.99. I didn't get this at Software Etc. or GameStop. I got this where I always bought my games in Tucson, and it cost me $1. Here's the NES Double Dragon. Unfortunately, it was not 2 players. I don't think the NES could have handled it. The 2-player mode in this game allows you to play versus against your friend, but you have to use the same character. And it's not the arcade game, but it is Double Dragon, similar to the arcade. And here's Dr. Mario. I guess we all know about Dr. Mario. Here is a truly awful game, Super Pitfall. I went out of my way to try and get this because I hated it so much when I was a younger kid. And, I always loved the Pitfall games. On the Atari 2600, I had the original 2. I had Pitfall and Pitfall 2. And this is sort of like Pitfall 2, except this is just so batshit crazy confusing, and it makes no sense, and the collision detection is horrible, and this game is just, it doesn't work right. It's fucked up, and it kind of looks like Super Mario Brothers in a lot of ways. Like they stole the sprite from Mario and painted him blue. Now here's Batman. The video game for NES. This has really good music, and it's extremely hard. It's loosely based on the '89 movie, and it's a really great game. A lot of hard levels. This is one of the better Batman video games that came out around this time, and for the NES, I would say it's the best of the bunch. Let's see, this is Kung Fu Heroes. I'm not too sure what this is. This is from Culture Brain. They did release a number of games for the NES, and I think this may have been an arcade game, but I really don't know for sure. I don't know much about it, and I don't know what this is either. I think I got this for $1 or for free. I don't remember. Okay, here's some good stuff. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Konami, or Ultra Games, their American offshoot. I think everybody knows about this game. It was rushed through production to get it out in time for Christmas, so it has no real ties to the TV show, other than some, some certain graphics and stuff. But if you watch the characters animate when they walk, they have the exact same walk animation as Simon Belmont does in all of the Castlevania games. Here's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. A semi-decent port of the arcade game, the original arcade game. And TMNT 3, the Manhattan Project. Yeah, this is a follow-up to the arcade game, I guess, for the NES. It has the same sprites as the second game, and it has new bosses. So it was basically, here are the new toys that we want you to show in this video game, and here's the money to make the game. It was one of those types of situations. So grab some more to go along. This is Trojan. That game was one of the hardest games I have ever played in my entire life, on the NES and in the arcade. The arcade version is a bit harder because it has way more buttons. It has a button for every action, like ducking, for jumping, for attacking with your sword, or blocking with your shield, rather, not attacking. I ended up getting this game originally when I was a kid. I traded like one G.I. Joe for it because the guy who had it hated the game so much because it was so hard. And here's Section Z. When I first got my NES, I almost bought this based on this character on the front of the game, and I'm glad I didn't. I got Ghosts and Goblins instead, which I was addicted to in the arcade. I used to go to the Circle K and play it every day, Ghosts and Goblins. So I got that one instead of this one, because if I did get this one, I would have been really disappointed. This game is extremely hard, and it took me well over a year, probably 2 or 3 years, to beat it, to memorize where to go. And yeah, that game was extremely difficult. And here's Codename Viper. This is a lot like Rolling Thunder from Namco, except it's licensed, it's made by Capcom. And it has better graphics than the one that came out for the NES, the version of Rolling Thunder that came out for the NES. A little bit easier also. Here's Solstice. This game could really work nowadays, and this is a cool game. The only thing that sucks about it is that you can't save, and this is really like a long puzzle game. It's isometric, and you jump around on platforms and stuff. You have to figure out your way through this cavernous dungeon, and you have no save points, and you have to finish it in one sitting. And it has really cool music. Like, you get used to it after a while. You'll be humming the tune. Karate Champ. This is a decent but not great port of the arcade game, and again, this is not on the Data East Arcade Classics compilation. I don't have very many of those sleeves. Okay, gotta watch out for the ninja. Kid Nicky, the Radical Ninja, or Rad Action, it is known as both. And a friend of mine actually had the arcade machine because he found it in an empty apartment that he was carpeting. And My friend's dad was watching one of my friends play it, and nobody knew that he was there, and he was like, "You got to watch out for the ninja." So that's a reference to that. 1943, arcade top-down shooter, pretty cool. Decent for the NES. It's better on the arcades, but it's serviceable. Yo-Noid. This was a ninja game in Japan, and they just kind of threw the Domino's Pizza Noid license onto it for the US release, and it was kind of after the character was retired from the commercials. Domino's Pizza didn't use the character any longer at that point, and I think that might be why the California Raisin game got canceled before it came out, around the same time. And so we'll move right along. Here's Gargoyle's Quest 2, the sequel to the Game Boy game Gargoyle's Quest, which is an offshoot of Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts. You use Firebrand. It is a top-down quest adventure, Legend of Zelda type game. Really cool. It also has side-scrolling levels, and there's a really great sequel to it, a third in the installment on the Super Nintendo called Demon's Crest, which I also have. I have all three of the games. And here's Commando. This is a port of the arcade game Commando. Not that great. And next up is Legendary Wings, a port of the arcade game Legendary Wings. Again, it's okay, not as good as the arcade. This might be the last NES game I ever bought. I got it for about $1 or $2, and it's actually kind of hard to find, but the sequel is even harder to find. It's a pretty cool game. I would like to have the second one. I'm not actively seeking it out or anything, but one of these days, maybe. Here's Strider. I was a little disappointed with this because it wasn't, the arcade game, but it is a unique version of Strider, and I do enjoy this. And I think if it got remade the same way that Bionic Commando did, rearmed, that would be really cool because they could iron out all the bugs and stuff, but I don't ever see that happening. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! We all know about that game. Really great. A lot of fun. We got the Little Mermaid. I never did beat this. Chippendale Rescue Rangers. I don't have the second one. Mighty Final Fight. I used to try and find this on eBay all the time, and I would try and snipe it, but people would outbid me at the very last minute by sniping me. And that was actually to my favor because I ended up getting this for about $3, and I was, losing it for a lot more than that. Bionic Commando. Not the same as the arcade, but pretty cool. Now here's the other one that I found at that thrift store, The Adventure of Link, Zelda 2. In really, really good, unscuffed condition. Really, it looked like it had never been touched, and I hope my save file is still on there. Okay, so here's a kind of smoke-stained Metroid. There's 5 screws, because some people like 5 screws. I don't really give a shit one way or the other. Disney's Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. This game is a little tough. I do like the Haunted Mansion level because that's my favorite attraction at Disneyland. Here's Tailspin. I don't like this one. Out of all the Disney Capcom games, I think this one is kind of the least fun to play. Here's Shadowgate, which is a text-based, not completely text-based, but it was point and click type RPG. This was kind of fun. No explanation needed for Tetris. I think everybody in the world has played that. Willow. This is basically like Legend of Zelda. I used to, I had that on pause for days and days and days, and then I tripped over my NES and I didn't ever start over. So here's Gunsmoke, port of the arcade game. A little easier than the arcade. The arcade version I still am terrible at. This one I'm better at on the NES. And I am running very low on time, so we'll squeeze out the last of the collection here as quickly as possible. Wampum. This is basically a generic Mega Man ripoff. Thundercade. This is a top-down shooting game where you use a motorcycle and you get sidecars that are weapons. Your power-ups are sidecars. This is Stinger. It's a pretty cool game from Konami. Kind of like Twin Bee, similar to Twin Bee. Here is Star Force. This is a port of an arcade game, shooter type game from Tecmo. Here is this is Worm. It's kind of use this like a drill tank thing, and it's not very good. Image Fight. This is an IRAM arcade game. Pretty cool shooter. A lot of fun. Here's Alpha Mission. This is one of SNK's classic arcade shooting games. There's a sequel to it on the Neo Geo. And I am down to the wire and I still have a lot of games left. Ah, shit. Okay, so we got... Okay, this is the original Star Soldier, a shooter. Starship Hector, again, a shooter. But you have hit points in that one. Twin Eagle, a helicopter shooter. Zexes, a Hudson Soft game, which is pretty cool. Kind of a shooter and a side scroller. Abadox, which is kind of like Life Force, and DuckTales 2, which I found out in the wild for $5. Haha. Ninja Gaiden 2, Ninja Gaiden 3, Gunmac. I got all these games, you know, for $2, $3 a piece, like I said. Street Fighter 2010, The Final Fight. The original DuckTales here. Guardian Legends, which is like a shooter crossed with a Legend of Zelda. It's very difficult. This is Zanak. This is along the lines of Gunmac. Compile shooter, very cool, very hard. Gyrus, which is an arcade game from Konami, pretty classic. Wizards and Warriors. Here's the sequel, Iron Sword, with Fabio here on the cover. He can't believe it's not butter. Ninja Crusaders. This game is kind of crummy looking graphics wise, but it's a lot of fun. My friend Lewis and I also played that game co-op. And here is Ninja Gaiden, the original. So I have all three on NES, which is good. Star Wars, that guy that ripped me off, he gave me that one. Yoshi, fun kind of puzzle game. RC Pro-Am. Let's see, it says I got it for $1, and I did. And I think that is all of it. Yes, that is. That concludes my NES stuff. Sorry I had to rush through the last ones, but I'm about to run out of time here. Shoot me a comment if you have any inquiries about some of the specifics of any of the games, or if you just want to bullshit with me, that's fine too. Comment, like, subscribe, that'd be great. You guys, I know you all have bigger collections than me. I'm not competing with any of you, but I like to see other people's pickups and their collections as well, so I'm posting mine in hopes to see yours. Everybody, take care, and we'll talk to you again soon.